Welcome back to both of you. So, to the Sun, to Brexit, the man who jumped from the Daily Mail to the Sun because he believes in Brexit. The Brexit countdown is to a boom day, not to doomsday. You agree, don't you?
I do. Quentin lets us on form here. I mean, it starts with a joke because it's making it framing it in terms of 007 and with or without. We've got the 92 days there on a dynamite stick.
Yeah.
But actually, the key point that he's making here is, if I can just pick out the quote, no deal would, in fact, have tremendous advantages. Doomsayers should hold their fire, Britain will be just fine. And really what he's saying here is that in amongst all this uncertainty, and we've had a year of very kind of fluctuation and hostility for the Prime Minister and her deals, we're faced with the option of a deal that absolutely no one wants, or a second referendum which no one wants, or a no deal which everyone is completely running scared of. And Quentin lets us bring it back and saying no deal is not the cliff edge, it's not the doomsday, it's not the Armageddon that people have been making it out to be. Actually, it's something that could bring tremendous advantages for the UK. The thing that I always say, and to put it like this, is that we voted, 17.4 million people voted 2 years ago on a very clear directive to leave the European Union, which meant leaving the customs union, the single market, leaving the remit of EU laws, very clear. That's what no deal entails at this point. It means giving the proverbial finger to the EU and saying, thank you for making it so very difficult for us for the last 2 years. You haven't dented our desire for sovereignty and democracy. We're leaving. So I feel very positive about it.
I mean,
How do you feel?
I'm probably going to disagree with almost everything you said there. But I mean, for me, it's one of those pieces. It's like, yeah, it's great that you compare it to James Bond and 007. But I mean, it's one of those fluff pieces that you sort of standard. It's one of those standard pieces that you get from the sort of Brexit camp when it's like, oh yeah, leaving without a deal is actually going to bring us, huge advantages. We're going to have all these trade deals with countries none of which has actually amounted to anything. It's going to bring national unity, which is not true at all, because Scotland overwhelmingly voted to remain, and there's a whole idea of Scottish independence that's sort of resurfacing, so that's not necessarily true. And yeah, it's been incredibly difficult for us to leave, and part of that reason is because a lot of our laws are linked to the European Union, so this process does take time. And, yes, there was a majority that voted for Brexit. But don't forget that when that happened, we had a lot of issues within the actual referendum, not to mention, obviously, Boris Johnson's big red bus, which I'm sure we've talked about to death.
But we have, and
the migrant crisis.
We have, and the bus was not. I have to shoot you down because after 2 years, I'm not standing anymore for this bus issue, because the whole idea that Brexit voters voted on the basis of bluster from Boris Johnson, prejudice from Nigel Farage, being uneducated, not knowing what they were voted for. And the fact that polls consistently show throughout the last 2 years that Brexiteers and Remainers who now believe in democracy, the Democrats who want this vote to happen, have not wavered in their desire for this to happen. No matter what the government throws at this thing, Brexit, the biggest political mandate in British history, a giant event, people still want it.
But that's not necessarily true as well. There've been polls done by YouGov, by The Independent. There've been polls done that people are changing their minds because more and more information is coming out. So, for example,
on the deal, they don't like the deal.
The deal
and Brexit.
The deal and Brexit. All this process goes hand in hand. And you talk about Boris Johnson. This was one of the things that people voted on. Boris Johnson, a big red bus. The fact that Arron Banks, used his insurance company to, get their employees to campaign, which is obviously completely unethical. The fact that they overspent
around the edges of the issue, really, isn't it? The question is, what would the impact be of no deal? If we go to the second page of the Daily Mail, talking about business confidence, Brexit fears hammer business confidence. Presumably, a number of companies are sitting on their hands waiting to see what happens. People say that we have not been damaged by Brexit now, but we have got slower growth than had been predicted, haven't we, since?
This is the this is the scandal of the government not preparing for a no deal. So the fact is the government has made such a hash of Brexit over the last 2 years that it's sort of natural that businesses would be thinking, the UK doesn't look like a very good place for me to be investing now. That doesn't affect the process of voting for democracy.
Okay, I'm going to very quickly go to our final story, otherwise we won't get to it, and we didn't manage it last time either, which is love at first flight. The couple claimed they met for the first time at an airport on Christmas Eve, flew to Vegas and married 9 days after they clicked online.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a bit of a bizarre story, as we covered earlier. You know, met online 24 hours after meeting. They go to Vegas and they have their shotgun wedding. What I find bizarre though is that she's still living with her ex, and neither she nor her husband have told their families, which is...
He hasn't told. He's going to have lunch with his daughters, tell his daughters. She's
Too
going to
late now.
tell her family. Do you know what I think?
Hate to break it to you.
A bit of Christmas cheer. You can be cynical about this. Maybe this will turn out to be a romance story that we'll be telling in 20 years. Fingers crossed.
Matteo, thank you and congratulations.